Chad, the coverage of the Washington Commanders has been quite the talk recently, where they go with the veteran coach and Dan Quinn, and they go with Kliff Kingsbury at offensive coordinator. They tried to hire Ben Johnson, did not. They go with Quinn, and Kingsbury flips from the Raiders to the Commanders. And wouldn't you know, the week of Super Bowl 58, just like 57, 56, 55, there are those that take issue with a white coach landing a job in the offseason.
I mean, how many years has race been a chief issue at the Super Bowl? The last 12, 15? I feel like there's always some racial element involved in Super Bowl coverage the week leading up to it. So
longer than that, probably, with the Rooney Rule.
Yeah, look, Stephen A. Smith at ESPN is no different than a lot of people who have placated the racism card and gone that direction during Super Bowl week because it's something that's going to get some buzz. And here is what Stephen A. Smith had to say about Kliff Kingsbury landing that offensive coordinator job in Washington.
But I am not exaggerating when I say this. Kliff Kingsbury, the now former coach for the Arizona Cardinals, I challenge anybody in football to tell me I'm wrong about this. This man is more known for his relationships with quarterbacks and that fly-ass crib he had during the NFL draft when COVID was going on and we saw where he was. He's more known for that than he is for winning football games. That is a fact. It cannot be disputed. Okay? And so when I look at it from that perspective, and we talk about things, and I'm going to go here, Doggy. We talk about diversity, and we certainly saw black coaches getting hired and all of that other stuff. That's not where I'm going. I'm saying from an historical perspective, we look at a guy like Kliff Kingsbury, and you know what we see as black folks? Oh, see, this is the kind of stuff that don't happen for black folks. So you're in college, right? And you got a good relationship with Kyler Murray. So we got the #1 overall pick, we Arizona. So we're going to hire you because you ingratiated yourself with a kid in this family and you the right guy for the job. That works out for you with one playoff appearance in 4 years, okay, and one season and winning record. Now we fast forward years later. Now you're the offensive coordinator. Why you get that job? Because they got the #2 overall pick, and Caleb Williams is talking about, that's my dog. A puppy. Ain't thrown a damn pass in the National Football League yet. Okay, great, incredible talent, but breath smelling like Similac, wet behind the ears, ain't throw a damn pass in the NFL, but he vouching. Oh, that's my dog. That's my dog right there. And you get the offensive coordinator's job. It doesn't seem to me like there are bona fide football reasons as to why Kliff Kingsbury is the new offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. You couldn't produce but so much in college. You damn sure didn't do it in the pros, but somehow, some way, job opportunities come your way. As the great Don King once said, only in America, baby. Only in America.
I've got one name for Stephen A. Smith, Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson was terrible as a head coach. He was terrible in Oakland. Then he was terrible with the Browns. He continued to get opportunities to be an assistant coach after that, and even got that second chance to be a head coach. This is not a race issue with Kliff Kingsbury. And I think, Hutton, we're focused on the wrong side of this. What's amazing to me, not how Kliff Kingsbury has seemingly sort of failed upwards at times. I'm not going to deny that. I think Kliff Kingsbury is probably a very pleasant guy in interviews. I think people around the league like him, and I think a lot of people who are pleasant and get along with people around the league get opportunities maybe they haven't earned with a second or third chance. That happens all the time, both white and black coaches. Again, the example is Hugh Jackson. The real question to me is, how is it that Eric Bieniemy not getting a head coaching shot is all of a sudden no longer racist? Because that was all the talk the last few years. He was the embodiment of not enough opportunities for black coaches. Yeah. And they would always cite Eric Bieniemy. Have we now figured out maybe Eric Bieniemy's just not that great of a coach and that he really benefited from Andy Reid the entire time in Kansas City? Now that he's been fired, there's not as much talk on that side of it.
Chad, the example I would use is Joe Witt Jr., the new defensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders, who is black. You're not hearing Stephen A. Smith mention the defensive coordinator for the Commanders. He's mentioning Kliff Kingsbury. And he's not mentioning Bieniemy because you're right. When he's with the Chiefs, he looks great. He did have the NFL's leading passer through like 10 weeks, which was remarkable. based on what that offense looked like at the end of the year. But so the Rooney Rule, we have seen the percentage of minorities go up through the hire since it was at 6% when this was enacted. Now it went up to 22% at this point. This was a couple of years ago. It's gone up since then. I mean, the Rooney Rule. Is Rooney racist if he doesn't extend Mike Tomlin immediately? I mean, he's still under contract, but I mean, when are we going to get there? If Tomlin decides to leave, they'll find out a way to make that happen. And the other examples I'll use, Chad. When the Texans got rid of Dave Culley, the immediate response was this has something to do because he's black. Then they went with Lovie Smith. And then they went with DeMeco Ryans. And not a peep about that. Nothing. It's doing good things where it's now 2 interviews that you have to have, not 1. And they want perception to be reality. That everything's on the up and up and there's nothing going on. The perception's reality about Bieniemy, because you're right, no one's clamoring and hammering that home because, well, that's not a good argument anymore. You can't point to him anymore. And look at all the interviews he's had. I think the Commanders hired Joe Witt. They didn't hire Bieniemy or anyone on offense, and that's now the argument is because Kliff Kingsbury is the OC.
Well, it's selective criticism, right? It's selective awareness of a story. I'm only going to cite the things that benefit my argument, and that's what Stephen A. Smith is doing here. He's saying, hey, this is wrong. Black folks don't get this opportunity, and this good-looking white guy continues to get this opportunity, right? But Hutton, you just cited the other examples where the opposite is true. I think this is an issue across all sports, and I would be more inclined to discuss this. I think too many nice guys in pro sports get multiple opportunities that maybe they don't deserve. I don't think it's a black-white issue. I think it's hey, we like this person, and we're going to hire them again. I'm not going to sit here and stand on this chair right now on Radio Row and say, boy, it's a really smart move to hire Kliff Kingsbury as offensive coordinator. Or sit here and argue that, man, it makes a lot of sense that Kliff Kingsbury had multiple NFL OC opportunities. Not just the one. He was able to spurn the Raiders right here in Vegas and go to Washington. I'm not going to sit here and argue that Kliff Kingsbury is the reason that Patrick Mahomes is good, right? Or that Johnny Manziel was Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. I don't believe any of that. I believe he's probably a nice guy that works his connections well and that owners and other coaches like, and he's being given the opportunity. I also believe that the Commanders believe they're going to get Caleb Williams, and this is kind of a package deal. I would be surprised, Hutton, if that's not the case. If Kliff Kingsbury's not coaching Caleb Williams with the Commanders, I will be shocked.
No one's mentioning Brian Flores either, because he's in the middle of the lawsuit. He's the face of a lawsuit that continues. For discrimination when he was fired by the Miami Dolphins. And Goodell's still being questioned about, diversity in the NFL. And he was asked about that today again. It wasn't Jim Trotter because Trotter's not here.
Well, it's another guy suing the NFL.
Or if Trotter's here, I haven't seen him.
Yeah, Jim Trotter is suing the NFL
also.
That's why he's not here.
But, he's with The Athletic now, I believe. If he's not, he's with another site. So I guess he could be here. But he didn't ask the question. It was someone else. Point being, why haven't we seen change was, I believe, was the question. And Goodell followed up by saying, we have seen change. And the percentages will tell you that. And they will continue to rise. But on the same token, he's also pointing out all the hires throughout the entire league, which he points out, Chad, let me get the quote. I'll tell you for the first time, 51% of our employees across the league, across the network, across our media platforms, not including players, are either people of color or women for the first time ever. So progress is being made. And there are areas where we still need to work and still need to improve. Whether it's offensive assistants, he goes on, maybe people with our media newsroom, we will continue to do that and make significant progress, and we have. I'll also point out, there at the Washington Post, there are columns right now you can go read about Bieniemy not getting his shot. The same paper, the same outlet puts out from Candace Buckner, also a minority, a woman, and African-American, says, this was an article during the season, when all the debate was about whether or not Ron Rivera was going to get fired. And she wrote an article with the headline, "Spare Bieniemy the interim tag if Rivera leaves." Spare him the interim tag so he can't show what he can do. We've seen interims be carried over before. It's an argument, the 24-hour news cycle. It's clickbait. It's BS. And, yet again, here's Stephen A. Smith touting that, and the response should be about the defensive coordinator, and it's not. I mean, you won't hear that mentioned. On the same team, the same club, same staff, same level of job, just on defense.
Well, and we're getting very selective now in what we're going after, because the question was not about lack of diversity in the NFL. It's specifically about lack of diversity in the NFL media newsroom. And the question goes on about editors, managers in charge, that there was one minority that just passed away over the weekend, and how can you sit there and feel good about that? I'll be completely honest. I had no idea what the racial makeup was of the NFL newsroom until this question. I don't care. I do not care. Do we care that most social media workers are young people and that there's a lack of older people in social media right now? We're really picking and choosing and getting into the weeds now about, all right, now let's move on to this issue. And if this doesn't break down exactly the way it should across racial lines or whatever, then we've got an issue. I don't see the issue. I personally don't really care. I know Roger Goodell, I don't think he was completely ready to answer that part of the question about the NFL media room and NFL media members, but he answered it about the league as a whole. And Hutton, it's rinse and repeat, right? Every Super Bowl week, if it's not Jim Trotter asking the questions, it's a guy standing there on behalf of Jim Trotter explaining how I'm here for Jim Trotter because he can't be here because he's suing the NFL, and he's no longer a part of the NFL media where he was employed by NFL.com and NFL media. Every year we're going to have this. Next year we're going to come back and someone else is going to say something stupid, and we'll talk about it and we'll tell you where it's stupid, but you really can just plan these type of arguments every single year. And if something goes against that narrative, then they're just not going to talk about it. No one will talk about it.
Chad, we've got Sean Merriman coming up in just a couple of minutes here. Looking forward to that. You going to be seen in the casino while we're here?
Am I,
yeah.
Or is he?
Are you? He could be too.
Maybe. I might do a little sports book time.
Coming up, because I need more time for that.
Maybe bet on the roulette wheel a little bit.
It is the double standard that the NFL continues to get away with. Their policy on sports betting or just being seen, your presence, the mere presence of walking into, crossing the line from entering the casino versus just walking by a food court. Everyone here is terrified. Any employee, any player, terrified of it. And, well, I've got facts on what the NFL does to speak out of both sides of their mouth.
Rightfully so, about them being terrified. Well, the way the NFL has done it. You've already brought up the example of, I guess, no Major League Baseball players gamble on anything.
Yeah.
It's about what do you want to find. And I think the NFL is very serious, clearly, based on the rules and based on the fright level of all NFL employees here. They're very serious about protecting the integrity of their sport.
Chad, protect the integrity of manhood with Manscaped. Valentine's Day just around the corner. It's time to make your balls happy this Valentine's Day for her.
You always need to keep your balls in mind. Sure. I think, right? And that's what they're teaching you at Manscaped. It's the remedy for what the Love Doctor ordered. The hero of Valentine's Day, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. The electric trimmer features skin-safe technology guarding your V-Day treasure against any grooming mishaps. All you need to do, Hutton, to get 20% off. You ready for this?
Ready.
Use the code HOTMIC for 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com. Again, manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping with the code HOTMIC. That is HOTMIC for those that are spelling impaired, because your grooming upgrade awaits. And be ready to charm your Valentine's Day this year.
They've got the bright LED light for you.
Yeah.
They have.
So you can do it in the dark. This thing is so bright.
Mow away.
You could trim away in the dark.
You also have the cologne. You have beard trimmers and the big package with all that too. But take care of your package with the package from manscaped.com. Code HOTMIC, 20% off there, plus free shipping. And be ready for Valentine's Day.